Unfortunately, the government is even funding people to become addicts so that they can stay in their homes and take a stimulus check as opposed to be working and living the way that God intended us to. And that is going to be kind of the focal point of what I'm going to be talking about today. We're, of course, going to be sharing typically the 5 books of Moses. We find that to be the most integral piece of information that's not existing in the education system. And yesterday, I was having a conversation, and one of the things through a very circular conversation came out to like, oh, if you could do one thing to make the world a better place, what would it be? And the first thing that I said was, start teaching the Bible in the school system again. That's not happening. It would be absolutely better for everybody across the board, particularly here in the US. And so today I wanted to inform our newcomers on what this business is, what we're doing, and what I'd like to hopefully get from you guys. So I have been getting deeper and deeper into the space of addiction and how overlooked that really is, and that the people who are in that space aren't giving those who need the help that they need, and that there's about $7 billion that is given simply just to Los Angeles to fund nonprofits and the businesses that are taking care of people in addiction and post-incarceration and trying to get people on a new path of life. They have no funding in order to keep up what they're doing. So I don't know where all this $7 billion is going, but it sounds like it's going to a lot of people's pockets, okay? And we are non-funded. We're doing this simply as a boxing gym that's been blessed to be successful. We have even our own complications here, and this has been a great blessing to come into the picture. We are a boxing gym, and I started as a boxing gym. I didn't start as a rehabilitation center. Coach Stu over here actually really brought to my attention, I think, absolutely through the hand of God, an amazing story where he had actually been part of a rehabilitation center that was also a boxing gym. And for that story to come to me here, we're doing it the other way around. We're the boxing gym, and then we're going to try and become the rehabilitation center. And the niches, for those who aren't familiar, are post-incarceration. More than likely in your first year, you're going to be able to qualify. We want to give you a helping hand on your feet to get to where you need to be. If it's addiction, you need a belief in a higher power. That actually, I feel there's a lot of programs that aren't doing a good job in giving people that source material. So if that's going to be the foundation, we are in existence because of faith-based relationships. And again, you need purpose. This is the thing that I think a lot of people keep coming into relapse with. Without purpose, everything is meaningless, and to revert back to old behaviors and habits, it's actually not a problem. And also, without God, what is the point of living out a life in a specific way? Who are you doing it for? Are there any consequences really long term? And here we like to talk about those things and give people a place to speak openly. So now that you know a bit about our program, there's some new faces here, so I'll let you know that that's essentially how you qualify. You have to sit down with me and Mike and the other people of the organizations, and you're actually going to use the training as part of your rehabilitation process, because self-improvement is a road to recovery, right? And when you start training again and you revamp your environment around very knowledgeable people who have things to teach you, it starts showing you that I can build myself up and get a skill set that I can put back into the world. And this revolves around work. And so men working is always a good thing. God tells us it's part of our purpose. When he creates the man, he created him in order to work and to guard. And the first thing that he commands both man and woman is be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. So human beings, way beyond religion or any of that was created, this is what God asked from us. So I encourage people here to build families, to try and cling to a woman and a woman cling to a man, to commit yourself to each other under the matrimony of God, and to have children. But you're only going to get there if you're able to provide and to work. And a woman is only going to be able to have children if she commits herself to understanding her purpose and her value in life. And I was going to just share a short point. I have it here. I'll have to do a little bit of walking through, but because there's a lot of people who struggle in addiction here, and a lot of people who struggled in general, I think one of the best stories to hold on to is the Israelites arriving at the land of Israel and rejecting the land of Israel. And only 2 out of the 12 people who were meant to judge that spoke favorably on behalf of God and what he commanded them to do. And so hopefully I would tell you guys that just to even be part of those 2 is definitely worth it, and you should try and do it. So I'm just going to read the story straight. I just need to go ahead and find it real quick. Well, they were sent out in order to spy the land and see if it was actually worth it. And so they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. They went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to the entire assembly of the children of Israel to the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh, and brought back the report to them and the entire assembly. And they showed them the fruit of the land. They reported to him and said, "We arrived at the land to which you sent us, and indeed it flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. But the people that dwell in the land is powerful. The cities are fortified and very great. And we also saw there the offspring of the giant. Amalek dwells in the area of the south, the Hittite, the Jebusite, the Amorite dwell on the mountain, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea on the bank of the Jordan." Caleb silenced the people towards Moses and said, "We shall surely ascend and conquer it, for we can surely do it." But the men who had ascended with him said, "We cannot ascend to that people, for it is too strong for us." They brought forth to the children of Israel an evil report on the land that they had spied out, saying, "The land, though, which we have possessed to spy it out, is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people that we saw in there were huge. There we saw the Nephilim, the sons of the giant. From among the Nephilim, we were like grasshoppers in our eyes, and so we were in their eyes." The entire assembly raised up and issued its voice. The people wept that night. All the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron, and the entire assembly said to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in the wilderness. Why is Yahweh bringing us to this land to die by the sword? Our wives and young children will be taken captive. Is it not better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and let us return to Egypt." Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before the entire congregation of the assembly of the children of Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jehupheth, of the spies of the land, tore their garments. They spoke to the entire assembly of the children of Israel, saying, "The land that we passed through to spy it out, the land is very, very good. If Yahweh desires us, he will bring us to the land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Do not rebel against Yahweh. You should not fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them. Yahweh is with us. Do not fear them." But the entire assembly said to pelt them with stones, and the glory of Yahweh appeared in the tent of meeting to all the children of Israel. Yahweh said to Moses, "How long will this people provoke me, and how long will they have faith in me, despite all the signs that I have performed in their midst? I will smite them with plague and annihilate them, and I will make you a greater and more powerful nation than they." Moses said to Yahweh, "Then Egypt, from whose midst you brought us up, this nation with you power will hear, and they will say about the inhabitants of the land, 'They have heard that you, Yahweh, are in the midst of this people, that you, Yahweh, appeared eye to eye, and your cloud stands over them, and that in the pillar of cloud you go before them by day, and a pillar of fire by night. Yet you kill this people like a single man.' Then the nations that heard of your fame will say, 'Because Yahweh lacked the ability to bring this people to the land, and he swore to give them, he slaughtered them in the wilderness. And now may the strength of my Lord be magnified as you have been spoken, saying, Yahweh slow to anger, abundant in kindness, forgiver of iniquity and willful sin, who cleanses but does not cleanse completely, recalling the iniquity of parents upon children to the third and fourth generations. Forgive now the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your kindness, and as you have forgiven this people from Egypt until now. And Yahweh said, I have forgiven because of your word. But as I live, and the glory of Yahweh shall fill the entire world, that all the men who have seen my glory and my signs that I performed in Egypt in the wilderness, and have tested me these 10 times, have not heeded my voice. If you will see that the land I have sworn to give their forefathers, and all who anger me shall not see it, but my servant Caleb, because a different spirit was with him, and he followed me wholeheartedly. I shall bring him to the land to which he came, and his offspring shall possess it. The Amalite and the Canaanite dwell in the valley tomorrow. Turn and journey toward the wilderness in the direction of the Sea of Reeds. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, How long for this evil assembly that provokes complaints against me? I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel who provoke against me. Say to them, as I live, the word of Yahweh, if you shall not do as you have spoken in my ears, in this wilderness shall your carcass drop, all of you who are counted in any of your numbering, from 20 years of age and above, whom you provoked against me, if you shall come to the land from which I raised my hand in an oath to settle you there, except for Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun, and your young children of whom they will say will be taken captive, I shall bring them, they shall know the land that you have despised. But your carcasses shall drop in the wilderness, your children will roam in the wilderness for 40 years and bear your guilt until the last of your carcasses in the wilderness, like the number of your days that you spied out the land, 40 days, a day for a year shall you bear your iniquities, 40 years, and you shall comprehend straying from me. I, Yahweh, have spoken. If I shall not do this to the entire evil assembly that gathers against me, in this wilderness shall you cease to be, and there they shall die. Now, I just read the story flat as it is in the literature. It's a very hard story, unfortunately, you can see that they really brought an evil report. Okay, this is the greatest definition of self-sabotage I've ever seen. Okay, 10 times have they already rebelled against God. God confirmed that. Okay, up until 10 times, now they've given an evil report. First of all, I would encourage everybody, be like Joshua and Caleb. Okay, if you're just that one bystander who doesn't partake of what everybody else does, you're in the clear, you're blessed, you're in the promised land. Okay, but everybody else, and you can use this as a phrase for relapse, right? At a certain point in your relapsing, right? Obviously, we know that relapse is part of recovery. I think everybody knows that, right? And hopefully you have a safe environment that encourages you to get back on track. And by back on track, they did live out the next 40 years in the desert, even though they were cursed, okay? They got to live out the next 40 years in the desert, and their children still received that promise. But our actions that we do in our movements, they affect our children as well. So the children were the ones who bore that guilt there. So this is just a timeless story to understand that there are consequences to our actions, and it's pretty clear God is infinitely kind. Not only was there 10 times that they were spoken out against, he also listened to Moses and Aaron's plea as well. So just know that that story is there for you guys to read, and it's timeless, and there's so many conclusions that can come to it. Hopefully reading it straight was beneficial. I'll go ahead and pass it over to my father.
Cool. Thank you. I don't think they'll use. You want to use that?
Yeah, sure.
I got it. Thanks. Well, that was brilliant. You really can't do better than just listening to the text or reading it yourself. You say it's very accessible. It's not like it's a mysterious thing. Just to springboard off of these 12 men, there's a point that God invites Moses to choose the very best of the leadership, the very best of Israel, to represent the 12 tribes. So 12 individuals, and all of these men, all 12 of them, have witnessed the astonishing 10 plagues of Egypt and the destruction of Egypt, the swallowing of Pharaoh's army, the miracles at the Red Sea. They have heard the voice of God at Mount Sinai. And this is in the book of Numbers, so when you're looking it up. the story of the spies. And out of 12 men who've lived through those astonishing miracles, only 2 of them will affirm the goodness of God's mission, right? And so that's a metaphor, of course, for all human beings and all life. Humans are inclined to not do the right thing, even when it's very plain what the right thing is. So I'm going to allude to a conversation I had with Stu. Stu was very gracious to say that he thought, since he's known me, he thought I looked a little better. And I thought that's more a reflection, by the way, on Stu's kindness than it is on me. And he's tough as nails. I want you to underline, tough as nails men are the kind ones, you know. So, and we all want to aspire to that. So, but following up, I just spontaneously said, he asked rhetorically, how do you do it? I suppose I try not to suck, you know. And that's a good metaphor because it came out spontaneously out of our conversation. But the fact is, that's what we all should be doing. Don't worry about being good. Try not to suck. How about we don't shame ourselves in front of God when he makes it clear what he gives us open miracles daily, all of us, and we'll still choose the wrong thing. But if we're conscious of it, we could become one of the 2 out of 12. And those people do enter the land. That's the metaphor. They're blessed in every way from this moment forward, here and the promised land completely. And that's obviously a comprehensive statement about reality that God wants us to know. And bear in mind, just to refer back to the flow of my conversation with Stu, what does this refer back to? The original story of Adam and Eve in the garden, and God tells them, you can have everything in the garden, just not this one tree, the forbidden fruit. And who comes in and says, no, you can have whatever you want. God's just, God's talking smack. And so we're going to listen to God, whom we have met, who Adam has met face to face, the awesome, indescribably awesome creator of everything, of existence itself. Or we could listen to the talking snake. And what happens to mankind? Mankind tends to listen to the talking snake instead of God. So let's, how about we all try not to suck, you know? And that's the essence of it. But it should be simple, bearing in mind that the penultimate example is when all the Jewish people, having gone through the Exodus, and they hear the voice of God, bring into them the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, and within a 40-day period, they are already building an idol when Moses is on top receiving the mountain, even though they've already heard the voice of God. And they know it to be true, but they will do the opposite of what God wants. You know, that's human nature. But what's the value of that? The value of that, why would God do such a thing? Because if he didn't give us that ability to exercise free will, we just become robots, automatons for good, like a machine that does something, and we have no individuality. It's the fact that humans are made in the image of God. Man and woman are made in the image of God. That this aspect of free will, of true individuality manifests there. And interestingly enough, when we choose the evil, we diminish our individuality. We become like most people. What we want to do is be a particular individual. And that means when God sets before us, as the words of Moses do at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, he said, I set before you the good and the life and the evil and the death. And you think that would be sufficient unto itself. You know, we don't really, I guess that's pretty self-evident what we should choose. And then there's a few lines, and then it says, God actually says, or Moses says specifically, choose life that you may live. Like, we need to be told the conclusion. 2 + 2 equals, come on, guys, it's 4, you know. Choose good and evil, good versus evil, intelligent versus stupid, wise versus foolish, life versus death, good versus evil. Choose the good, and it's an exercise of our individuality. That's the only true individuality we will ever have. And that's what I want to say today.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
take that.
Well, at the risk of being overly simple, I don't want to say that it's that easy to just point to, these are the laws of God, this is what you have to keep, and this is God, and this is who you should worship. Yet, when you read the Torah, you're given this sense of simplicity that's almost unbelievable. Yet you're told, in fact, this is the law, this is how it is, and this is God. And I've been reading Deuteronomy chapter 4, and in this chapter, we're exposed to two very important statements. So Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2 reads, "You shall not add upon this word which I command you, and you shall not subtract from it, to guard all the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I command you." So here we're being told a very explicit statement. You cannot add or subtract to the existing commandments that are written in this book. And so God is giving us a certain set of commandments. And there's so much about human law and human life that we're constantly looking to reform things or progress in some other direction, try to come up with something new, with some other way of doing things, to be like, oh, well, maybe that's not so important, and maybe now this is really important. But the reality is, what we're being told here is the commandments that you have been given, they're at the point of perfection that you actually shall not add or subtract to it. And you can look at both of those points. So there are people that are super religious and serious about their observance, and they're like, well, God says that I shouldn't work on Saturday. I think I'll do Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Well, that's not like extra credit. That's not extra holy. That's breaking the law. The law says, do not add, right? And then you could have someone who's like a super progressive, and they're like, well, like that was back then, and we've come to greater understandings in the modern day. We know better than the ancients. They were idiots. We know better, and so they come up with a subtraction. We got to get rid of this law. This one doesn't apply anymore. Well, again, they're breaking this commandment. You shall not add or subtract to these commandments. Now, again, what's being put to us here is that you already possess the perfect code of law, the perfect code of ethics, that you shall not deviate from it in any direction. And this is repeated, shall not go to the right or the left, right? And so it's not that life is that simple. Life is extremely complex, but we're being given a revelation here that actually provides us with a clarity that we wouldn't have otherwise. And so that's the importance of having this revelation, because we truly would be spinning in the depths if we didn't actually have this revelation to guide us. And similarly, you see a revelation as far as who God is, right? And so it's being repeated again and again that God is Yahweh. And so, for example, in verse 4, you who cling to Yahweh your God, you are all alive today. Now, there's two times where it says cling to someone. As Dan mentioned in the beginning of Genesis, God tells man to cling to his woman. And here we're seeing Moses is telling the people, cling to God. All right? And so these are the fundamental relationships that you need to maintain in order to have a life. But what I wanted to get to was the statement where it says, Yahweh, He is God, in the heaven above and on the earth below. There is no other besides for Him. And that's really the point that's being said here. And here it is, verse 35. So same chapter 4, verse 35. Now you have been shown. So specifically, these people, the Israelites, have been shown. They've witnessed enough to know that Yahweh, He is God. There is no other besides for Him. And I mean, that's kind of the conversation ender, because we can go into the endless mythology of religion and to the polytheism of the gods. And by the way, the Torah doesn't deny that there are quote unquote gods. However, they are referred to other gods. They're not God Himself. When we refer to Yahweh, we refer to the origination point of all existence. All the gods, all the universes, all the humans, everything God is the origination point that underpins existence itself. And so there is no other besides for him. And so again, would we be able to know that without this? Definitely not. We'd, again, just be lost in a whirlwind. But having this revelation teaches us that the law has already been revealed to us. God has already been revealed to us. And now our only job is to follow and to obey. And I think that's a very powerful place to be in. And, it takes faith and submission, but it's certainly necessary when we see the alternative being just a complete reliance on the feeble mind of human beings, on the fleeting opinions and back and forth of everyone. Well, no, that's certainly not enough. And even your own mind, because ultimately people will say, well, I don't trust the news and I don't trust history and I don't trust religion. I trust myself. Right? It's like, well, you're just another human being and you don't have the ultimate knowledge that's needed in order to come to these conclusions. So having this revelation and trusting that it's real, it just allows us to actually rest easy. And you don't even have to go past Deuteronomy, it turns out, because you've already been shown the law that you need, and you've already been introduced to God himself, and now we know what to do, so let's do it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you need that.
I don't think I need it. All right, I guess just to add to what Shirley said, you can rest easy. I was about to say something that is not going to allow you to rest easy. Last week, after the faith meeting, I spoke to Shirley for a little bit, and I've been reading on the history of the Jewish people from biblical times until the modern age. And we started talking about the anti-Semitism that's going on now and how it's been ramping up quite a bit. And I jokingly, I was like, I just told him, well, like, I'm Mexican, I'm not Jewish. Worst case scenario, I'll be like out of the torture and the executions. But I guess that brought me to today, where I woke up and I got this little like message on my phone, and it was from an app, the Bible app. It just gives me notifications, some quotes, and it was from Isaiah, and it said something like, "Oh Lord, you created Jacob, but you formed Israel," right? And what that brought me back to was, interestingly enough, just through a lot of like webbing, it brought me back to like why I even decided to join the Jewish faith. And it feels like there's a lot of things against you when trying to join that faith, right? A lot of the history in which the Jews were persecuted, they never had a home, they never belonged anywhere. And even if you look at the forefathers, they kind of like were traveling merchants. And they eventually, Jacob and his children came into Egypt, and that's where the 12 tribes were. And it was only God that formed Israel, right? And that part is very important, because he formed not a nationality or not a gene, right? He formed a nation that's consisted of many different types of people, not just whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asian. It's for everyone, essentially. And why would he want to join a nation that has been persecuted for this long and has never had a home? And even now they have a home, quote unquote, but it's under attack, right? And how is that beneficial to you? And even if you joined a nation, right, like you follow the biblical narrative and you just get thrown into the desert to believe in God, if you were to look at the metaphor. And the same thing happens now. If you join the nation, the spiritual nation, you kind of get lost, and you start realizing that even the nations themselves who proclaim themselves as Jewish are not necessarily abiding by the laws that you've read in the Torah. So what does that community even mean? Like, what significance does it have? And why should you label yourself as a Jew when you'll just get thrown into the rest of the stereotypes that invade their essence. And I guess there's no point at the end of this. I wanted to leave off with a question, as I've been doing every week, which is like, how do you, because I converted into Judaism, I had an outside perspective on like what they were, right? Like they were kind of the I don't know, obscure, like not sure what they're doing type of people. Like, what is your guys' view on the Jewish people? Whoever wants to. Aslan? Sorry, I have to pick on you or Michael.
That came right out of my mouth. My view on the Jewish people?
Mhm.
I love the faith. Like, I actually love everything about Judaism. The people individually are some of the most like intelligent people that I've ever met, with a very different perspective. Like they can very easily speak their opinion and their perspective, right? It flows. It's simple. There's like such a sense of community and belonging individually. Living very closely in a Jewish community and clearly not being Jewish is very different. Like when, oh gosh, dang it. They're very sweet, very warm people, unless they see you as an outsider. And then together, there's this distance. And I've even seen that as they kind of interact with each other. There's this like intense draw between what is right, what is wrong. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone's kind of conflicted about it, right? So there's an aspect where you should be coming together where there's a little bit of a coming apart. But Judaism in itself, I think, is right. It's just beautiful. And the people are beautiful. Yeah.
That was great.
Kind of a loaded question for me.
No, yeah. It's supposed to be.
Somebody else take this.
Michael?
I'll keep mine very simple. But some of my views before I even met you guys was more so the family-oriented people the Jewish community is, and the way you guys value your next generation that comes after you is very important. It's just something that touches home to me. And there's somebody that I follow on YouTube. His name is Mr. Solomon. And he's always giving up business advice. And it just always hits home. And one of his advice was, if you want to make money, have kids. and his reason behind it is because you push yourself harder when you have kids. And I really love this advice because it's all his advice is surrounded by family and belief of God. And you're doing yourself disjustice if you're not teaching those principles to your kids. And it's so fascinating to me because I'm in it for that same reason. And a lot of those family values really hit home. And like I said, before I even knew you guys, I looked forward to hearing some of those advice because the values, the morals, essentially the values that comes behind it. I can't put it into words, but mainly it's the family orientation that follows it is fascinating to me. So I just leave it at that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Thomas. I grew up in the Catholic Church in New York. So, going to Catholic like private school and surrounded by a lot of Jewish people in my area, like in proximity to me, but not in my life, and had not necessarily a stigma against the Jewish faith, and but it just wasn't. We just weren't friends necessarily. Not by. Just by family connection, really. but my uncle is a Jew, follows Judaism, and we've been introduced to certain religious traditions and understandings through him. And from what I've noticed is you guys are very the Jewish people are very evidence-based, like factually driven, but also very like traditionally sound. And there's traditions mean a lot, family means a lot, and like I think those are things that no matter your religious beliefs or your spirituality, that those are things that I think are important to humans as a whole, connecting with family and really on a deep level and following tradition that like history repeats itself. So, yeah, like I said, like I grew up with a very stark contrast and a polarizing kind of belief. But from what I've, come to learn is that the Jewish faith breeds good people and a good a base for your life going forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was not expecting this to turn up where it did. Super interesting. And I'll tell you, just from my own perspective, this particular facility, also the 4 people sitting on this bench, absolutely hate the Jewish faith as it is. Okay? I'm going to be completely open about that. So for all of you guys to be so kind and encouraging, it's beautiful. But you should also know that there has been a stray from everything that Israel was saying, adding and subtracting, right? And so I just wanted to talk simply about the historical narrative. If you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or you're a Jew or really an American, right? You were born with, by born, I mean, your parents raised you on it. Definitely if you were in America coming here, like an American or an Englishman coming here to become an American, right? The Bible was the thing you brought with you. It was the reason the conquest started in the first place. And so people had an understanding that the Israelites were given the way for people to exist and live with God. And then 1,500 years after that event happened, through the New Testament, there was an establishment, but now the whole world has the way. And that's true, because I see Gentiles, right, it would be the way that you referred to it, all holding the Bible with the same laws and access that I was supposed to have thousands of years ago. So that has to be true. And I've seen the world run with that far better than the Jewish people have, which shows you the power of the laws. And something that Mike said was the first thing I said, was the first thing God asked of people: be fruitful and multiply, right? So God has your best interest. And if you follow that over a long period of time, you'll see the benefits and the growth. That's really the main point that I just wanted to share, so you guys are aware of this particular space. So in future events, you can be a bit more open, because I'm a super controversial and probably, actually not probably, I'm for sure an unlikable guy in the Jewish faith, so I'd much rather be here with you guys saying the truth, and the outcome will be blessed. It'll be blessed. And I wanted to encourage everybody here that the mission that we're on right now is to give those who need the help that they need. And there is a crazy amount of diversity in this room, even at this particular moment. So clearly we don't care about keeping our doors closed. And because we're not funded, there are so many people already helping us without any pay. And I wanted to open those doors to everybody who comes here for future faith meetings. If you guys want to be part of the help, come to me or Mike. Come to me or Mike, and we'll find you a task to do. And if enough of us can build up these tasks, I know that this can really turn into an incredibly blessed facility, giving the help that people are looking for. So thank you all so much for being here. God bless you all.
Before we can, I think we have 5 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, we're on time like that, huh?
Yeah, we're on time.
Wow.
Yeah, we have 6 minutes. I want to bring this topic because it's very easy to fall into conspiracy and false prophets. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and I've been falling down into this rabbit hole of doing a lot of research, and because I've been seeing it on my feed so often that we're getting prophets and signs that the world is ending, which if you're young, you probably don't know about this, but that's actually been happening for a while, where we have people that say Christ is coming, repent now, and a lot of prophets that are coming to preach, but in reality, we really don't know. And then also, I mean, if you read the Bible, no one knows when that time is. However, there are some procuring causes that leads to it, but we don't really know the time and day. You know, in the Bible, it says day will turn into night and night will turn into day, right? And there's prophets that are supposed to return, for example, Elijah and I forget the other person, but there's somebody in particular that keeps popping up on my feed, particularly from the Muslim community. The Mahdi has returned. I'll send you guys the video. It's blowing my mind. But it's very easy to fall into this rabbit hole and start believing everything that they're saying, because this person is so controversial that he's combining all three religions into one. When he's talking to the Muslims, he's talking to the Christians, he's talking to the Jews. And he's taking all these concepts and stories and combining it into one. And he's saying that he's the successor of Muhammad, and Jesus and Muhammad are brothers, but they're both prophets sent from God, and tying all this. And if you don't know your history, it's easy to fall into it. I just want to see I don't know if you guys have ran into it. Do you guys know anything about this?
All day long. I think we all might need to talk a little bit on this, because I have the speaker. I'll just go first and I'll pass it to you, Baba.
Okay.
But just so you guys are aware, go read the 5 books of Moses. You'll see no Messiah there. I find the Messiah to be the single most harmful idea that people have ran with. Also, it hasn't been ran with for that long. If you're just even going to go by Jewish history and how long antiquity has been writing these things down for, if Judaism's 3,500 years old, it took 1,500 years for people to come up with the idea of a Messiah. The Jews were not typically running with that. Later in the rabbinic literature, they started to pick up with that. And then when Jesus came into the picture, he is the Messiah, right? But guys, it's been 2,025 years. I don't see anything different. Okay. So my advice to people in general is, if you have that belief, okay, when it comes, you guys will have that incredible salvation. God bless you. But it's not going to change anything between today and tomorrow. You still have to live life as it is. And all of this information is about living life. So we have one absolute, we're all going to die, right? And so what can we do with the time that we have on earth? And again, we're going to talk about a Messiah and all the things that are going on there. We don't even know how much time we have, so you use that. And if you were to read the foundational literature, it's a relatively new idea. The Jews screwed up with it. They went and had 50 Jewish messiahs in the past 2,000 years. So you can look up the history on that too. Shabtai Tzvi is a famous clown in the Jewish community. It's really bad. And, you have some bad stories. So read the history and just remember that it's a fabricated idea. If God is going to save us, or your Messiah is going to save you, let it happen when it happens, but live today as God intended.
Yeah. I think that's quite comprehensive, really. I'm going to just cite a reason to focus for both Jews and Christians, and Muslims for that matter, on the 5 books of Moses, because the essential information is there. And Christianity, in terms of values, does not deviate from that. In truth, it's a wonderful realization of it. So we're not dismissing Christianity. But the information to truly understand it is in the 5 books of Moses. And I'm going to use a phrase that Dennis Prager has been using for many years wisely, and Shruly talked about it in citing the point that thou shalt neither add up nor take away from this commandment that I set before you. And Prager puts it this way, and has for many years. He says, the world, from a human nature standpoint, is made up of people who are adder-uppers and taker-awayers. And that's why it's a commandment to not do that. We're getting an insight into human nature. Humans are inclined to, oh, here's a straight pathway. Let me add up a whole bunch of stuff on this side over here, or let me take away a whole bunch of stuff. And insofar as they both deviate from the center line, which is what God commands, they're equal. Their sins equal in both directions. So you can become too zealous, if you will, and ascetic, and in the name of God, and that's a form of sin, or you could start rejecting obvious truths, and that's a form of sin. So you don't want to do it. And essentially, this opens up the questions you were framing, the fact that it's not messianic based, although you could say the essential idea of there being individuals that come forth in time, in the time and space that God creates, that are redeemers, if you will, of that particular generation, like the story of Noah and saving mankind through the building of the ark, or Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and Moses. You have individuals that step forward. This is clearly an existential reality, but it's not quite the same thing as saying all you guys kick back and you're pretty much in bad shape until the Messiah comes, until that's not the way to look at it. I think Dan said it beautifully. This is an instruction manual on how to live between here and now. And certainly there may be individuals that are extraordinary, that are helpful to mankind and all to the good. Whoever said that wasn't so? You know, you don't have to make that aspect of itself a religion. There's what does God want from us here and now? And that information is essentially there in the 5 books of Moses. You can focus it even more narrowly, say it's essentially there in the 10 Commandments alone. But that it's good to understand the rubric, the blueprint of existence that's being laid out. And it's not that big a deal. It's a 250-page book if you're just going to read, say, the King James Version. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
I have seen this guy that you're talking about. I mean, a bunch of people have sent videos to me. I mean, again, it just comes down to this longing that people have for a savior, and they're willing to put their faith in whoever grabs their fancy and says the right things with the right tone of voice. It's very low level, cultish, like ape human behavior. It's very, very lowly. Ultimately, the Torah says, how do you verify a false prophet or a true prophet? See if what he says comes true. So if people are making claims, when those claims come true, then we'll know that it was a true prophecy. Until then, they don't have a leg to stand on. So, I think it comes back to what I was talking about, is that you don't need to listen to other people's opinions and to what they have to say in 2025. If you already have the literature that you shall not add or subtract to, if you already have the God, that there is no new God after that, there's no new God who is born, there's no 10 other gods there's just the one God, Yahweh, who gave you these commandments, then you already know everything you need to know. So bless you. So if you have some other, some other guy just saying things that, like, what does it actually add to your life? Nothing. It comes down to, what are your obligations in the here and now? You already have the answer for that. You have enough knowledge on your own. You don't even need this guy. And so he's just playing on people's superstitions and the fact that religion has been taking advantage of the masses for thousands of years. It's pathetic. Yeah.
You're right. He is speaking in the right tone of voice.
Mm.
He's gaining a follower. But if you take a look at his channel, he's been making videos on YouTube since like last year, maybe even longer. Probably took some of those down.
Yep. Again, let's see if it comes true, right?
Yeah.
Until then, you just got to keep doing what God wants you to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, part of his point is, like, he's not the Antichrist, nor does he claim to be one. And, he's basically telling you what you need to hear.
Which is what? It's just a bunch of buzzwords. It's not, there's no substance. Right. The substance is in the 5 books of Moses, and that's information that everyone has access to. So you don't need some prophet to tell you that.
Again, a great way to see what's right and wrong is he's saying, guys, listen to me, rely on me and the new information that I have. People who have your best interest, they give you the source material and they say, you don't need to trust me. Go find out yourself. That's what I'm saying. That's what the guys on the benches here are saying. And
Yeah, I want to touch up on that too. One thing we do have is a free will, you know? You pick and choose whether you want to believe it or not believe it. One thing is, when it comes down to redemption, you will be questioned. Everybody will be judged. Everybody, including myself. So we got to pick and choose. If you believe or don't believe, like they said, the blueprint is the Bible. You know, you have any question? Some people question the Bible. The Bible is never really consistent because people got to also understand these were different times from different people, you know, but they all conclude that Yahweh was the source or a higher power was the source, you know, so we may not be like on point. There are some things that might be questioning, but for the most part, it all comes down to the same thing, same person, same God, you know. But people might manipulate it into doing what you say he's doing, you know. Every religion to one thing. That's now manipulation, you know. But if you have a free will to pick and choose, you can leave that as not, you know. At the end of the day, what it does come down to is the 10 Commandments. Follow those 10 Commandments. That's all that counts, you know. And a lot of people now in this time and age aren't following those 10 Commandments.
Yeah. They don't even know it. They don't even know it. Especially our youth. Especially our youth.
And you're right. You get to choose what you believe in and who you believe in. And so what does this guy actually bring to the table that you don't already know? Like, why would you make some random person the object of your faith if you can make God himself the object of your faith, you know?
To his point, it's God had sent prophets, some who were denied, some who were persecuted, some who were canceled. So now he's touching on people's emotions, like, hey, maybe he is the one of our time that we should trust. So he's playing on emotions. If you think about it.
I have a really easy analogy for this, and you can apply it to pretty much anyone, any age, and you can even take it back to the idea, the concept of the garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine for a second you're 5 years old, right? You're 5. You're getting ready for kindergarten, but you're not there. You're 5, right? And somebody comes up to you at the park and is like, hey, I have candy. Do you want some candy? I have kittens. You guys like kittens? How about popsicles? You guys like popsicles? I got toys, teddy bears. I also have a big white van. And I'm going to tell you everything that you want. And I'm going to offer it to you. So I can get you in the van. I'm going to get you to agree to it. And then I'm going to take what I want. That's the nature of manipulation, right? It has a playbook. And it follows the same playbook, even back to the garden. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. You'll be fine. You can have it. You can get what you want. Yeah, it's going to be great. That person lied to you. Don't believe him. Believe me, I just met you.
What's sad is that these are adults, not 5-year-olds, and they
I
still
know,
fall for it.
but it's the nature doesn't change.
No, exactly. It
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's what you want to hear. Deep down, it's like what you're expecting is what you're. He's saying all the right things to make you believe him. But in reality, it's like, okay, you might be falling into this trap of where he wants you to be, because what Mehdi's on YouTube trying to gain followers. I mean,
well, and it comes back to Dan's point. Be that 1%. Like, stay, don't self-sabotage, stay aligned with God.
right.
Even if that kind of goes against all of these other people, this big following that's going that way. If you know what is right and you feel what is right and you have that direction, lean into that direction, even if everyone's going to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of you guys may have read. Thank you. This is the devil's world. It's been the devil's world since a good time, even before Jesus arrived. And when Jesus did arrive, the devil doesn't show himself to anybody, but he showed himself that night when he was fasting on the mountaintop And he said, why do you go for God? Why not go for me? You could have everything in this world. Therefore saying, just like he tried to tempt Jesus or higher power, whatever you want to say, to take everything, the devil's like that within us, and a lot of us fall into temptations. We're not perfect, I'm not perfect myself, so there's no need to come out all perfect. But you really have to watch out on the temptations, because certain temptations will lead you to the rabbit hole, and we're humans, we live and learn, and like this girl said, you feel it. One feels when one thing is bad and one thing is good. The energy, you feel it. Like within you, you probably have like the BGs, the bubble guts, whatever. Like you feel when something's good and when something's bad, when something's up and when something's right. So just maybe there's something, a spirit, I don't know, that's telling us at that time, like, yo, don't go there, and we go there. Then when something happens, we're like, oh man, like something was warning us not to go there or do this or do that before it happened, because they knew what was going to be the outcome, so maybe it's best if we listen to that little voice inside our head, That's all I got to say.
Sure. I mean, it's also a little bit difficult to listen to that voice when that voice is telling you that the third Messiah is coming. Yeah. So there's that temptation, like you mentioned, right? The fall into temptation, and fall is the action word. It's really, I think, translated it as the lust to temptation, right? We're just, as a human characteristic, we want to experience temptation, which is pretty awful.
Yeah, the lust is for temptation.
Yeah. Sure.
Can I say, going back to the story you read, excuse me, and the temptation, what I was hearing during the reading, I was thinking that was me, and that's my mind. I was the scouts going to the promised land, because I'm a guy in recovery, tempted by relapse, and so I got the good guys in my brain, in terms of succumbing to temptation, the good guys saying, man, this land is the answer. It's the land of milk and honey and bounty, meaning recovery. And then the other side of me, the addict that wants to look back, and do what it wants to do, is now wants to pull me back to the old thing. I forget there's another thing about temptation. When they got out of Sodom and Gomorrah and the wife looked back and she turned into the pillar of salt, my addiction wants me back. Okay, so I am now in the desert, and I am really close to the promised land and getting back to the laws of Moses and the 10 Commandments. Discipline is freedom. And like we were talking about obedience. I need to be obedient right now. I think in recovery we need to be obedient, and like the defiant guy, and that's one of my huge character defects is defiance. So I fight that fight every day. But I got two parts of me, 2 out of 12. What's that, 32%? That say, let's go forward into the promised land. So in terms of the reading, man, you just like, wow. In terms of like the recovery guy in me, who wants to let's go. But I know that this other guy is talking to me all the time too.
And to add to that story, God is actually painting the picture for you, right? That this is your land. You are going to conquer it. You are going to reap the blessing. This is promised to you.
And God will help you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's additional confirmation that you're going to reap the blessings that you're going towards.
So for all us guys trying to be in recovery, man, let's not, as they say, like sucker free, man. We're going to the promised land, right?
Amen.
Yeah. That's beautiful, guys. Thank you. I'm just seeing such a great success because I do have resources to read from and see whether or not we're growing and going in the right direction. And one of the things that was taught to me through one of the books I was reading was encourage people to talk openly, because then they'll share their gifts. And so I got to see so many of you share your gifts with us and say it in your own way. It was awesome. I hope this sets the stage for this week, because it's going to be some discipline. You know it. All right.